Κυρία Πρόεδρε, κύριε Πρωθυπουργέ, κύριοι Υπουργοί, κύριε Δήμαρχε, κυρίες και κύριοι, είναι καταρχήν μεγάλη μου χαρά.
Dear Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and pleasure for me to be here today for the Theophano Award. I'm very happy because this award is symbolizing the optimism of the city, Thessaloniki, an optimism that is stemming from the way Thessaloniki is looking to the future in an extrovert way, because it knows that it can conquer many things. And this is shown in the citizens of Thessaloniki. Mr. Stavros Andreadis managed to turn this award into an institution. And it is a great pleasure for me because we are all here in this historical monument, a place that 100 years ago was hosting Greek refugees. A space that is full of history and full of memories. The goal of the Empress Theophano Foundation is to honor individuals and organizations, acknowledging their contribution to the understanding and strengthening of the contemporary European ideal, as well as to the management of today's challenges. The starting point was in 2020, where the award focusing on education and the President of the European Commission, Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen, received the first Empress Theophano Award on behalf of the European institution, the Erasmus Citizens Program. In 2021, amid the extremely adverse conditions stemming from the pandemic, we honored two remarkable scientists who developed the first vaccine against the new coronavirus. So inside this unique monument, an initiative was born, an initiative that showcases the individuals and the institutions of our society contributing to a better future for all. Before moving on to this year's award, let's watch a short video on the history of this monument.
Thessaloniki's emblematic monument, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Built in the early 4th century BC, on the cusp of the Christian world taking over from idolatry, it is believed to have been founded either by Gaius Galerius Maximianus or Constantine the Great. Owing to its architectural form, the rotunda has been likened to Rome's Pantheon, while there are clear similarities to Constantinian dynasty mausoleums in Rome, Constantinople, and St. Cels. They share several characteristics, including plentiful natural light distributed through multiple openings and elaborate decorations. Between the late 4th and early 6th century, the rotunda was converted into a Christian temple with the addition of a holy altar to the east, whose size inspires awe and exaltation. It was later converted into a mosque by the Ottoman conquerors, a use that continued until the city's liberation in 1912, when the monument returned to Christian worship. It has since been dedicated to St. George after the small neighboring church. Inside, the decoration was magnificent. Marble embellished the curved walls from the floor to the base of the dome, as well as the side walls of the large niches. Doubtlessly most impressive are the wall mosaics, prominent masterpieces of late antiquity, unique in conceptual design and unparalleled in artistic excellence, whose interpretation and dating continue to fascinate researchers. They are notable for their realistic facial features, their evocative color combinations, their precision design, and attention to detail. As for iconography, the mosaics are an expression of two worlds, the Roman and the Christian, coming together to give birth to the art of Byzantium. Throughout the centuries, the rotunda remains a point of reference for the interaction between architectural mastery and exceptional Byzantine decoration, the religious and the secular, the East and the West, local community and global heritage. A monument of Thessaloniki, part of European history and culture.
Η πρώτη χρονιά λοιπόν ήταν η
The
χρονιά
first
της
year was the year of the European Union, the year of politics. The second year was the year of science, and this year is the year of art. This year we are honoring art as a common ground for mutual understanding of peoples and intercultural dialogue. It awards leading pianist and conductor Daniel Barenboim, one of the most influential figures of the international music scene, who has distinguished himself both for his musical work and for his initiatives on issues concerning peace and understanding among peoples. One of these is the Eastern Divan Orchestra, which has given the conductor the name Peace Messenger from the United Nations. Unfortunately, he can't be with us, but his son is here with us. He has offered so much to art, and not only. Today, we have got with us the first citizen of the country, Her Excellency, the President of the Hellenic Republic, is here with us. I would like to call her to the floor. She was with us last year as well. It is with great joy that I present today the Empress Theophano Award, which this year focuses on art to a personality of the stature and outreach of Daniel Barenboim, a leading conductor whom we have had the pleasure of enjoying in Greece, with perhaps more recordings than anyone else, a superb pianist, music director of many orchestras and festivals, the main one being the Staatskapelle in Berlin, inspirer of the mixture of awe and energetic courage with which its members approach music and shaper of its captivating sound. And at the same time, a great humanist, a brave intellectual, a deeply democratic citizen, an exuberant, outstanding figure, not only endowed with extraordinary gifts, a perfect memory, brilliant virtuosity, an irresistible way of winning over an audience, but above all, an enormous love of music. Music as a way of life, as he puts it, but also capable of defying and overcoming conventions and barriers. For Daniel Barenboim has never hesitated to take highly courageous public stands. He became an outspoken advocate for the performance of Wagner's music in Israel, believing that cultural life cannot be governed by taboos and prohibitions that oppose a critical understanding of works of art and their creators. He fought the lingering presence of anti-Semitism in Germany's cultural policy. He made public his discomfort with Israel's expansionist activity, and he became the first and most prominent Israeli musician ever to perform in the West Bank at Birdside University at the suggestion of his friend and constant interlocutor Edward Said. Daniel Barenboim's close friendship with the prematurely lost cultural critic Edward Said, this profound analyst of the relationship between culture and society, especially in relation to issues of Ottomanism, in issues of Orientalism, a field in which he was a pioneer and musician, manifested itself in a fruitful way in 1999 when Weimar was the cultural capital of Europe and was celebrating the 205th anniversary of Goethe's birth. It was precisely in the spirit of this multinational writer and thinker who, discovering Persian poetry, wrote an astonishing series of poems entitled West Österlich Divan, asserting that art is nothing but the journey to the other, that the two friends assembled an orchestra of Arab and Israeli musicians and gave it this very title, denying both the current trend of cultural intolerance intolerance, as the conductor so aptly defined it, i.e., the separation of people on the basis of ethnicity or religion and the rejection of the cultural values that define them. They both took a decisive step through music towards cooperation, coexistence, intercultural dialogue, and a balanced approach to collective passions. 23 years since its foundation, with a rich concert schedule and collaborations with such notable soloists as Anne-Sophie Mutter, Yogo Ma, and Martha Argerich, the West Eastern Divan Orchestra, based on the idea of equality, solidarity, and justice, proves not only that art builds bridges, but also that common purpose breaks down arbitrary generalizations, prejudices, and rivalries. Daniel Barenboim, speaking of the first divan meetings, gives a typical and moving example. He refers to a young Syrian who, on entering the orchestra, distrusted every Disraeli, considering them to be the embodiment of evil, a source of suffering for the Arabs. This same child, the conductor recounts in the book Parallels and Paradoxes, in which his conversations about music, literature, and politics with Edward Said are recorded, found himself sharing a music stand with an Israeli cellist. They were trying to play the same note, to play with the same stroke of the bow, with the same dynamic, with the same sound, with the same expression. They were trying to do something together. It's as simple as that. They were trying to do something together, something about which both cared, about which they were both passionate. Well, having achieved that one note, they already couldn't look at each other the same way, with suspicion and hostility, because they had shared a common experience. This is the essence of democracy. If you want to see how you can live in a democratic society, then you must try to find how you will be part of an orchestra, he wrote in the New York Review of Books. For within an orchestra, you know when to lead and when to follow. You leave space for others, and at the same time, you have no inhibitions about claiming a place for yourself. Today, we celebrate the great artist, the fully fledged political figure, the fierce defender of human rights. The Empress Theophano Prize is only a small recognition of his many contributions to world culture, to peace and understanding between peoples. We honor him with respect and we thank him. Thank you very much.
Ευχαριστούμε, κύριε Πρόεδρε.
Very much. The Empress Theophano Foundation is based in Thessaloniki. It was created by a group of people from Thessaloniki. The governing committee is made up by political science academics. The president is Mr. Stavros Andreadis, and I would like to kindly invite him to take the floor for a short address. Your Excellency, Madam President of the Hellenic Republic, dear Prime Minister, distinguished guests who honor us with your presence one more year, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Governing Board of the Foundation, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the awarding of the third European Empress Theophano Prize. We believe that this prize, although still in its infancy, has already clearly left its mark, focusing on the people, institutions, and initiatives of the European and global society that contribute to mutual understanding, joint cooperation, and the management of the challenges of the modern era. After education and the Erasmus Student Exchange Program, Science for the Common Good, and the pair of leading scientists who developed the first coronavirus vaccine, the Empress Theophano Prize focuses this year on art. Let's take a look around. We are inside a unique example of architectural art adorned with masterpieces of the mosaic art. A monument that is Roman, Byzantine, Ottoman, and Christian at the same time. A landmark of the sequence of civilizations, but also of our common history, of our common European identity. This monument, over the centuries, housed the narrative of different cultures and peoples, from the Romans of the 4th century BC to our compatriot refugees in 1922 who found temporary shelter in this very space. In the Rotunda today, we praise convergence through art as a common place, a common ground, and a means of mutual understanding and rapprochement of peoples and people. Honoring the leading pianist and conductor Daniel Barenboim, a truly sensational man, and his creation, the West Eastern Divan Orchestra, we want to highlight the power of art to act as a mediator, as a forum to resolve differences that so often result in violence and blood. With Israeli, Palestinian, and Arab musicians, concerts given from Carnegie Hall and the Salzburg Festival to Ramallah, and from the South-North Korean border to the UN, the West Eastern Divan Orchestra is a unique alternative art management model, a sample of global culture where music builds bridges and removes obstacles that are considered insurmountable. Daniel Barenboim, a Jew born in Argentina, a European citizen of the world, and at the same time a world legend of classical music, once said, "It is essential to find ways to bring into contact those who do not agree, in the hope that in the future there will be a kind of cooperation. It's not even a dialogue what we're doing. It is the process of learning to understand and to respect the other person's narrative. It may sound small, but it is extremely important." Today, due to sudden and unfortunately serious health problems, and we wish him a fast recovery, he could not be here with us, but we have with us his creation, the West Eastern Divan Orchestra. In the face of his son, chief musician Michael Barenboim, who will receive the prize on his behalf, as well as the rest of the artists, we see the continuation of his initiative, the people who make the maestro's vision a reality. Music can affect people more directly and deeply. It can heal and restore. As has Christian Andersen famously said, "Where words fail, music speaks." In this very way, music has the power to approach and highlight a fundamental and necessary value for today's world: the awareness, the realization of our common human origins. The vision of Daniel Barenboim at the Divan East Western Orchestra, based on the concepts of equality, cooperation, and justice, has captivated a global audience today, not only for its artistic value, but also for its symbolism as a legacy for world peace and reconciliation. We need all of this today more than ever in this rapidly changing world, with the dark face of violence looming all around us. Daniel Barenboim said, "It is necessary for man to contribute to society in a very individual way. This makes the whole far greater than the sum of its parts. Individuality and collectivity should not be mutually exclusive. In fact, together, they have the ability to enhance human existence." These sayings of his, I believe, contain the meaning of both this year's award and of the Empress Theophano Award itself. And with this in mind, we intend to continue. Excellency, Madam President, Honorable Mr. Prime Minister, on behalf of all of us, I warmly thank you for your presence today and for your continued support to the Empress Theophano Prize. Thank you.
Ανάμεσά μας έχουμε εξέχουσες
We have got amongst us distinguished personalities from Europe from various fields and sectors, comprising the advisory committee for Empress Theophano Prize. Among them, Herman von Rompuy, and a person who has played a critical role in the European Union developments. You're having the floor, Mr. President.
Madam President, Mr. Prime Minister, Madam Minister, dear Chairman of the Theophano Foundation, dear Stavros, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends. This is already the third time that I have stood in this rotunda to attend the presentation of the Theophano Prize. Each time, the Advisory Council that I have the honor to chair has proposed an initiative or people who have shaped the objectives of the prize. We want to focus on the idea of cooperation and reconciliation in the laureates' actions and lives. Constructive dialogues between the West and the East of our continent, between the countries bordering the Mediterranean. Ladies and gentlemen, the opposite of cooperation and reconciliation is war. We thought war was banished from Europe forever, that it belonged to the world of yesterday, that humanism would remain the soil of our civilization. It remains so for all the countries of the European Union, the greatest peace project in Europe's history. Once one leaves the Union's borders, things are different, however. And peace can only be sustainable if we share values around the uniqueness of each human person, if we respect the internationally recognized borders of each country, if we respect international treaties and laws. Peace is not a pious wish. It must be established on solid human and institutional grounds. The arts and culture, in a broad sense, bring out the essentials of human beings. It is about love and death, about the transient and the eternal, about the I, the you, and the we. In short, about life itself and what makes life great and worth living. And music does this most of all among the arts. It is easiest for all to appreciate. And by the way, also the visual arts bridge times and cultures, as you can see tomorrow in the exhibition of the Belgian artist Jan van Riet in the Byzantine Museum. Music is about beauty, but also about goodness and about truth. It appeals to the heart, the imagination, and reason. Music carries us away, draws us into the land of sounds that anyone of any country or language can understand. Music also carries a message, an ode to joy, to love, to brotherhood, to overcoming pain and sorrow, to nature, to the homeland, to the simplicity of everyday life. Music drags us along and makes us pause at the same time. I myself have no gift for this. Daniel Barenboim was born and lives in music, and nature has gifted him. But one can also do nothing with the gifts a person discovers in himself. However, he or she can bring it to fruition and let others share what nature has gifted you with. We have that freedom, we have that possibility. Daniel Barenboim has allowed his immeasurable talent to bear fruit. It became alive at the service of music and fellow human beings. One instrument was not enough to carry out his mission in life. He needed an orchestra. He has been given opportunities at the world's most famous opera houses and orchestras. He even created an orchestra of his own to convey his message even more clearly. It became the West Eastern Divan Orchestra. It's about music and cultural exchange, about encounter and dialogue between Palestinians and Israelis especially. Daniel Barenboim has several nationalities, but he is above all the holder of a passport issued by mankind itself. No one denies the milieu of where he or she comes from, but always with an open ear, an open eye, and an open heart. Daniel Barenboim is not a man of one language. He speaks many, but above all, he uses the universal language of music. The great composers of classical music are played and listened to in literally every place on earth. The great performers are welcomed anywhere in the world. Music, too, can be used to incite people, but that is not its vocation. It should make people more human. Where better to praise humanism than in its spiritual homeland, in Greece? Where better to use those words than in this rotunda, whose walls have seen multiple religions and civilizations pass by, and who have waited tolerantly to let us hear the voices and sounds of peace, justice, working and living together. The Theophano Foundation has found a house and a home in the rotunda, and vice versa. This space should be the home, the temple of peace. Daniel Barenboim cannot be with us in person tonight. It is unfortunate for us, and it is unfortunate for him, as the history of 2,000 years attends this ceremony. However, we are glad that your son Michael is here to be on your behalf. Sons and daughters are often their parents' best ambassadors. We have many teachers, but only one father and one mother. And since the lockdowns, however, we know that technology can still bring us together. Again, there are no limits. Man can overcome space and time. Man can build a lot. He can also, unfortunately, destroy much. The technology, the instrument of the heart and of the reason, is music. Your music, maestro, and those of your orchestra are here. They miss you. The Theophano Foundation Advisory Council deliberately chose arts and culture as the domain in which we would seek this year's laureate. It was once said that Europe is or should be built on culture. And Europe has many cultures. Over the centuries and after many tragedies, also in this country, the common base has become the love of the human person. Music is highly intercultural and multicultural. The great composers, so many of whom are Europeans, the great composers transcend the differences between peoples and languages. Daniel Barenboim's life and work are the perfect illustration of this. The world watched 9 months ago when you, maestro, once again gave the most famous concert on earth on New Year's Day in Vienna. Madam President, Mr. Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, for all those reasons, we want to honor you here in the presence of the President of the Hellenic Republic and the Prime Minister of Greece. Greece that is preeminently the cradle of our culture. We wish you a speedy recovery and one day a reunion in the good city of Thessaloniki on the shores of the Mediterranean that you hold so dear and that should unite us. Thank you so much.
Ευχαριστούμε, κύριε Πρόεδρε. Πριν την απονομή,
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Before awarding the prize, let's watch a short video on the vision of Daniel Barenboim, the West Eastern Divan Orchestra.
It began as an experiment in listening to one another. It became a journey in finding equality through music. It is now a home for music, learning, and mutual respect. The West Eastern Divan Orchestra was established in Weimar in 1999 by the late Palestinian literary scholar Edward Said and renowned pianist and conductor Daniel Barenboim. The ensemble brings together young musicians from Israel, Palestine, and other countries in the Middle East, offering them a chance to listen to the narrative of the other and engage in transcultural dialogue by making music with each other. This dialogue comes alive in the orchestra's concerts. The United Nations named Daniel Barenboim Messenger of Peace in 2007 and recognized the West Eastern Divan as United Nations Global Advocate for Cultural Understanding in 2016, the first orchestra to receive this honor. A world-class ensemble, the Divan performs at prestigious venues like the BBC Proms, Carnegie Hall, the Lucerne and Salzburg festivals, and the Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires. Its concert in Ramallah in 2005 showed the world that the orchestra would not let itself be held back by political boundaries.
It is our belief that the destinies of these two people, of the Palestinian people and the Israeli people, are inextricably linked, and that it is our duty, all of us, to find a way to live together, because either we all kill each other or we learn to share what there is to share. It is with this message that we have come to you today.
Based on the principle of education through music, the Barenboim Said Academy opened in Berlin in 2016 as a continuation of the spirit and mission of the West Eastern Divan Orchestra. Named after the orchestra's founders, the Barenboim Said Academy regards music as an essential part of the society and is committed to educating a new generation of musicians from the Middle East and North Africa. A central part of the academy is the Pierre Boulez salle, designed by Frank Gehry. Flexibility, openness, and musical curiosity are the essential programming ideas of this exquisite, architecturally distinct concert hall. It enriches the musical life of Berlin with its diverse program of more than 150 chamber music concerts each year, as well as lectures and seminars. The West Eastern Divan Orchestra and the Baden-Boehm Zaid Academy have not only given a voice to the vision of these two men, but a home as well. They now offer young people from the Middle East the opportunity to overcome barriers that once seemed insurmountable.
Κύριε Πρόεδρε, κύριε Ρομπάη, κύριε Ανδρεάδη, αν έχετε καλοσύνη να ανεβείτε στο βήμα.
President of the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Van Rompuy, dear President, I would like to kindly ask you to come to the podium and award the prize to Michael.
Κύριε Πρόεδρε, αν έχετε την καλοσύνη να...
Madam President and the Prime Minister.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ. Michael, the floor is yours. The podium is yours.
Your Excellency, Madam President, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Chairman of the Empress Theophano Foundation, Mr. Chairman of the jury, ladies and gentlemen, Kalispera Sas. It's a great honor for me and my fellow musicians of the West Eastern Divan Orchestra to be here today to accept the Empress Theophano Prize on behalf of my father, Daniel Barenboim. When he was named recipient of this award earlier this year, in acknowledgement of his efforts to promote dialogue and understanding through his work with the West Eastern Divan Orchestra, he very enthusiastically accepted. He felt this to be a recognition not only of his own work, but of every musician in the orchestra. My father was very much looking forward to coming to Thessaloniki to receive this award in person here in the Rotunda, this emblematic monument of multicultural references: Roman, Byzantine, Orthodox, Ottoman, Greek. Unfortunately, a serious health issue prevents him from being here with all of us. The Empress Theophano Prize was created in memory of a remarkable Greek woman who went on to become the Empress of the Holy German Empire. And it is presented in Thessaloniki, a city with such historic and cultural symbolism, which stands at the crossroads of East and West. To my father, both of these aspects seem to be very close to everything the West Eastern Divan Orchestra stands for: to initiate a dialogue between cultures and between human beings. What's more, my colleagues, my father, and I feel particularly humbled to be the third recipients of this prize, following President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen, who was recognized for her role as part of the European Peace Project, that is the Erasmus Student Program, and Dr. Özlem Türeci and Dr. Uğur Şahin, who showed us a way out of the global pandemic by developing the first COVID vaccine. This year's prize recognizes the role of art in intercultural dialogue. My father has been passionate about this idea for many decades, and he shared this passion with Edward Said, the Palestinian intellectual and literary scholar. The two first met in 1991 and quickly struck a close friendship. In 1999, in Weimar, they created what became the West Eastern Divan Orchestra, an ensemble of young musicians from Israel, Palestine, and other Arab countries. Intended as a one-time experimental workshop, the project immediately took on a life of its own and developed in ways that neither of the two founders ever expected. By being part of this group, each and every one of these musicians sets an example of openness, dialogue, and the will to listen to the other. Especially regarding the Middle East, this is not a question of agreeing with the narrative of someone with a different national, political, or personal background, but of the indispensable need to accept its legitimacy. In that sense, with every concert this orchestra plays, it sends out a call for mutual understanding. It is in this spirit that all of us feel extremely honored to receive this prize. Since the death of Edward Said in 2003, my father has continued the work they began together and built the West Eastern Divan Orchestra into what it is today. Not only a respected part of the international music scene, but a beacon of humanism in the face of hostility and war. Every time this orchestra goes on stage, it promotes an alternative model of thinking for the Middle East and beyond, based on dialogue and exchange. It fights ignorance and defies an accepted status quo of constant conflict and misery. To give just one example, in 2005, the West Eastern Divan Orchestra did something that was impossible at the time and actually still is. Comprised of musicians from countries like Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and Israel, it played a concert in Ramallah, an experience which will remain ingrained in our memory for the rest of our lives, musicians and audience alike. This, like many other events, would not have been possible without the continuous efforts of Tabari Perlas, general manager of the West Eastern Divan Orchestra from the very beginning. Edward Said was convinced that the role of the public intellectual must be to advance human freedom and knowledge, to challenge the status quo, and to act as a lookout for the rest of society. As members of the West Eastern Divan Orchestra, we have had the privilege of engaging in many discussions with academics, with writers and activists from the Middle East who are deeply committed to this vision. They have been an inspiration to all of us, and these exchanges have led us to acknowledge again and again the basic truth. The better one understands the other, the more one can expect to be accepted by them, and vice versa. One of the aspects that make the West Eastern Divan Orchestra possible is the fact that music doesn't contain limited associations as words do. It teaches us that there is nothing that doesn't include its parallel or opposite. Like the work you'll hear today, the Octet by Felix Mendelssohn, which combines intimacy and openness, chamber music and symphony, introversion and extroversion. It brings the grand gesture to the small room, as well as the delicate nuance to the big stage. I am pleased and proud to be joined today by my colleagues of the West Eastern Divan Ensemble, a group which enables us to represent the message of the orchestra in a more intimate setting. By itself, music may not be able to solve any problems, but it can teach us to think in a way that is a school for life. This very idea is also at the center of our work at the Barenboim Said Academy in Berlin, which grew out of the West Eastern Divan Orchestra. The Academy opened in 2016 and offers a comprehensive education for approximately 80 young musicians, primarily from countries of the Middle East and Northern Africa. What sets it apart from other conservatories is its focus on the humanities. In addition to music, all students attend classes in history, literature, and philosophy. They learn to listen to each other and develop their own ideas, which are then founded on the strong basis of rational thought. The goal is to train excellent musicians who are also curious, open-minded, and well-educated members of our society. In my role as Dean and Professor for Chamber Music, I take particular pleasure in witnessing the wonderful developments of these young talents. Of the 8 members of the West Eastern Divan Ensemble performing for you today, 5 are Academy alumni. My father has often stated that the West Eastern Divan Orchestra is not, and was never intended to be, a political project, but a humanistic one, just as he has always been convinced that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict cannot have a military solution, but only one of mutual acceptance between human beings. It is my hope and wish that this prize may inspire all of us who are assembled here today to have the courage and vision that is needed to make sure that dialogue and understanding will always prevail against small-mindedness and prejudice. And now, we have the pleasure of thanking you for this prize in the way we know best, with music. Evharisto Poli.
Νομίζω ότι είμαστε σήμερα τιμάμε 2 ανθρώπους.
Today we're honoring 2 people. Edward Said. I had the luck and the honor to have him as a professor in the USA. He has written an excellent book, Music Without Limits. That is what we're experiencing today. And the other one is the maestro, who is not with us today. But we have the pleasure to have a small ensemble of this orchestra. We will have 8 people who will give us a sample, or present us a sample of their work. They will show us how one is listening to the other, since they're coming from different regions and different countries. These are people who have the vision and the courage. They are working together for many years, and tirelessly they convey this call for dialogue and mutual understanding. This year, we will have also the work of Kostas Pigadas, a renowned Greek visual artist who lives and creates in New York. So I would like to invite the octet of musicians from Israel, Palestine, and the Middle East. Bilal Al-Lemr, violin. Yunus Altikanat, cello. Sari Khalife, cello. Miriam Manasarov, Samir Obaido, violin. Katrin Spiegel, David Strongin, violin.
Mikhail, if you can, thank you for this amazing experience. Thank you and wish your father Godspeed. Thank you very much. Σταύρο, έχεις βάλει τον πύχη πολύ ψηλά και για τη
Stavros,
Θεσσαλονίκη
you
και το
have raised the
βραβείο.
bar very high for Thessaloniki and for the award. I hope you will continue this way. Please give a warm applause for all those people who have worked hard in order to organize this ceremony this evening. A warm applause, please. Thank you very much.
Ευχαριστούμε και καλό σας βράδυ. Thank you very much.
Thank you and have a pleasant evening.
Are you going in encore? Please. Are you sure? That's okay. Okay.